Richard Linklater's Nouvelle Vague is a love letter to not just Jean-Luc Godard and the French New Wave, but to filmmaking, creativity, and art. Hey, I'm Mike. I studied film, I work in TV, and if you love movies as much as I do, hit that subscribe button and get notified when new content's posted. Jean-Luc Godard started his career as a film critic for the French publication Cahiers du Cinéma. He, along with François Truffaut, Eric Rohmer, Jacques Demy, and others, were critical of French cinema at the time and their tradition of quality, which emphasized craft over innovation, traditional filmmaking techniques over experimentation. These critics began making their own movies with their ideals in mind, launching what would be called the French New Wave, or Nouvelle Vague. A hallmark of the French New Wave is what became known as the auteur theory. Today, we're familiar with this. You can tell a Tarantino film from a Christopher Nolan film just in the way the camera's placed. But back then, not just in French cinema, but in Hollywood as well, the director was someone who yelled action and cut. Film was routine, boring, and rote. It was a manufactured product. Sure, sometimes great works would emerge, but it took directors like Hitchcock or Howard Hawks to really impose their will. The French New Wave filmmakers believed that the director was the sole creative vision of the film, the artist. A film is a reflection of their artistic vision in the same way Picasso, Dali, or Van Gogh had their styles. But in my opinion, the single greatest factor leading to the French New Wave was technology. I'm fascinated by how technology affects filmmaking, and Godard and his cohorts bucked the trend of using large, noisy 35mm cameras in favor of small, handheld rigs, which were becoming popular at the time with consumers. These smaller rigs required less setup time, less lighting, and they could shoot more documentary style. And the French New Wave directors leaned into that hard. Their thought was to shed the artifice of filmmaking and show real life on screen. Linklater's Nouvelle Vague is as much a behind-the-scenes into the making of Godard's first breakout film, Breathless, as it is a meditation on film as art. Godard wasn't interested in artifice. He wanted to capture truth. He wasn't telling story. He was capturing life. There's a scene where a character is supposed to be hit by a car, and the production team hires an expensive stuntman. But Godard ends up changing the shot to avoid the action. Instead, the camera finds the stuntman already on the ground. The crash felt too manufactured for Godard, so he didn't shoot it. Godard says at one point that he will only shoot 1 or 2 takes, and after that, they've lost the truth in the performance. There are days when Godard has the crew waiting, and since he doesn't feel inspired, they don't shoot. It sounds like he's being a jerk, but he's being very honest with himself and the rest of the crew. If he's not inspired, nothing good will come from that day. So they're better off going to the cinema, smoking cigarettes, and drinking wine. I've seen Breathless a few times over the years, and I'm not saying Godard is exactly my style of filmmaking. For me, it's a little defiant, in-your-face, different, jump cutting for the sake of jump cutting, too train of thought, and not as linear story as I would like. But that's me. I have to keep reminding myself that Breathless was the first such film. And when you're breaking a studio system with such a strong stranglehold on the filmmaking process, you sometimes have to be loud. A couple of cool things about Nouvelle Vague. The camera they use in the film, the prop, is the actual camera Godard used to shoot Breathless. So if you're wondering why there are so many shots of the camera, that's why. It still works, apparently. Nouvelle Vague is shot entirely in French and in black and white. It also is shot in the Academy 35 aspect ratio to give a vintage feel. Nouvelle Vague premiered at the 2025 Cannes Film Festival, surprise, I mean that's the audience for a film like this, and received an 11-minute standing ovation. If Nouvelle Vague does one thing, it's that it shows Jean-Luc Godard as the character that he was. The movie's filled with quotes that he probably said. If you're an aspiring filmmaker with the next great film in your head, you should give Nouvelle Vague a watch. It perfectly shows a man with a vision fighting an uphill battle to get that vision realized. I'm going to leave you with a few of my favorite Godard quotes, because there are a ton of them. Drop your favorite Godard quotes in the comments below. I'd love to read them. As always, film is about community. I'm Mike, and I love movies.